Okay, good morning everyone, and Chazak. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Parashat Pekudey. It's rare that we have Parashat Pekudey alone, because usually it's paired up with Parashat Vayakel. Vayakel, Pekudey are read together. But this year we have the luxury of being able to study Parashat Pekudey by itself. Pekudey means reckoning. Lifkod means to count. It's the accounting. This is the parasha of the accountants. Okay? Moshe Rabbeinu was being audited. Okay? There was an audit, and Moshe Rabbeinu had to give an accounting to show what? What was he accused of? Believe it or not, there were certain people, we're going to read now, that they accused Moshe Rabbeinu of stealing money from the Mishkan. That's how a parasha begins. Remember, the people are donating. They're bringing gold and silver, all the materials. And Moshe Rabbeinu, unfortunately, I don't have to tell you today how much corruption goes on. People that are in charge of money, we're seeing now how many billions and billions of dollars. Just already 3 months in, Trump has been shaving off billions that we don't even know where they're going. They're being funneled into people's personal bank accounts, being stolen from our tax dollars. With power, there's corruption. Moshe Rabbeinu, he had access to all of the money that was being donated to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple, to this beautiful project of building a house for God. And people are bringing gold, silver, jewelry, whatever you want, all the materials that were needed. We know they were listed last 15. And it's, you start wondering, Moshe Rabbeinu, did he take something? And we're going to see in a minute that there were certain cynics, litzanim, that they accused Moshe. Oh, look at this guy, Moshe. Where do you get that Armani from? You saw his wife, she's with that Hermes bag. How you doing? You know? And they started accusing Moshe. So Moshe has to give an accounting. Every dollar, every piece of gold, how much we collected, and where it went. And this is our parasha. Ele Pekudey HaMishkan. The following is the accounting, is the reckonings of the Mishkan. And it goes on to list all the materials that were used and where precisely they went. The Be'er Yosef quotes over here the Midrash. Lama asay mahem heshbon. Why is Moshe making an accounting with the people? HaKadosh Baruch Hu yitbarach shemo ma'amino. After all, God believes him. God trusts Moshe. Pasuk says it very black and white. Anyone know where God says, I trust Moshe? Pause the video if you want to take a second. It says it in Parashat Beha'alotecha. When, if you remember, Moshe, Aharon and Miriam spoke out Lashon Hara against Moshe and his wife. At the end of the Parasha over there. So God says, Bechol betina emanu. I trust him. He's my loyal steed. That's what God calls Moshe. Can you imagine God calling you my trustworthy servant? Trustworthy. That's a hard word today, my friends. Today, you need to be able to trust the people in your life. We have to allow the people that we're with to trust us. Very bad if you don't trust. You can't build a marriage if you don't trust the person you're dating. You have to have 100% trust. God trusted Moshe, eyes closed. So why did Moshe say, come, let's do a reckoning? What for? God trusted him. Rather, Moshe heard some of these clowns talking behind his back. Like it says, when Moshe would come to the tent, they would look, they would gaze at Moshe. What would they say? Rabbi Hama Amar, Hayu Omrim, Hame kada debere de Amram. When they would see Moshe walking to his tent, they would start looking at him. They would say, wow, look at that fat neck of Ben Amram. Where did Amram's son get so fat from? Back then, you should know, once upon a time, fat was a sign of wealth. People wanted fat. When you were marrying someone on a shidduch, they wanted someone big. That was once upon a time what was it showed wealth, rich, fat, right? A guy was fat, right? Look how wealthy that guy is. He's a big guy. He means he could eat. Skinny was a sign of poor, poverty, scrawny. Okay? Things today obviously are a little bit the opposite. Ve'havero amarlo. So the guy would say, wow, look how big Amram's son got. And his friend would say back, Adam sheshalat al melchet mishkan. Listen, the guy he had keys to all the money that was collected for the Mishkan. He had the key to the treasure house. And you don't think he's going to take some of it for himself? You don't think he's going to get a little rich? When Moshe heard this, Moshe said, by your life, when it's done, I'm going to show you an entire accounting. Every dollar, every receipt, every write-off. Come, let's do a calculation. And therefore our parasha begins with the accounting. Now, the Beit Yosef over here wants to understand, in life, even the biggest fool, even the biggest liar, you ever saw people that they try to make fun of others, they try to talk gossip, they try to stir, they try something, right? Even the biggest liar, there has to be something. There's got to be some truth. You don't lie about someone if it's completely not believable, right? If you're going to lie, you make it a little bit, there has to be some feet, some teeth, something to it. What caused these people to come and accuse Moshe? Why were they misled? You don't accuse random people of random things. If you're accusing them, there's got to be something there. So he explains over here, very, very interesting. He says, we know when the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, the Gemara says in a few places, it says that the Jewish people left with tremendous wealth. The Pasuk says that we left with wealth. But the Gemara explains, each guy left with 90 donkeys filled with money. Imagine you had 90 donkeys of money. Okay? It's a lot of money. So the Jewish people left wealthy. We cleaned them out. The pasuk says, "Vaynaselu et Misraim." We made it like a fisher's net, empty. Vaynaselu et Misraim. Not only that, we know that when we got to Yam Suf, the Egyptians came to chase us, and when they drowned, we started taking all of their gold that they had on their chariots with us. Matter of fact, it says that the gold that we took at the splitting of the sea was more than the gold that we took when we left Egypt. The pasuk says, "Toreh zahav na'aselach im nekudot hakasef." Rashi quotes the pasuk. We took more gold, more wealth was found at the splitting of the sea than even what we left Egypt with. So just do the math. 90 donkeys of gold when we left Egypt, and even more of that when we got to Yam Suf, when the Egyptians drowned. So the Jewish people are loaded. How you doing? Very wealthy people. Chag Sameach. They could afford the Pesach program now. But there was one guy that didn't take anything. Ulam Moshe Rabbeinu lo lakach mibizet Mitzrayim. Moshe didn't take the money. Moshe didn't take from the spoils of Egypt or from the loot of the sea. We know the pasuk says about him, Hacham lev yikach mitzvot. Moshe was preoccupied with more important things than money. What? Could there be something more important than money, Rabbi? Are you sure? Yes, there's something more important than money. Mitzvot. Hacham lev yikach mitzvot. Moshe Rabbeinu was a wise man, and he took mitzvot. He took Yosef's bones. Everyone was busy, preoccupied with nonsense, with temporary wealth. Moshe Rabbeinu was occupied with permanent wealth, with mitzvot. V'tzidkato omedet la'ad, something that's eternal, something that you can never lose, something that no one could ever steal, something that the stocks cannot go down with, something that does not lose value, a mitzvah. If so, Moshe Rabbeinu was not wealthy. Every Jew is rich financially, except for Moshe. So how did he become rich? He became rich from the leftovers, from the shavings of the luchot. If you remember, Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to get the Torah. God gives him the tablets with the commandments. Unfortunately, when he came down, when he saw the egel, he broke the tablets. Moshe went up for 40 more days to pray. 40 days from Shiva Asar B'Tammuz till Rosh Chodesh Elul. And what did God say, Rosh Chodesh Elul? Okay. Pesol lecha. Etch out for yourself now your own tablets. I'm not giving you tablets no more. God is only one. No return policy. But bring your own tablets, and I'll give you the luchot, the new commandments. I'll engrave it on them. Moshe goes up on Rosh Chodesh Elul for 40 more days, and he comes down with the new tablets, the second pair of tablets. But the pasuk that says Pesol lecha, what's Pesol lecha? Carve out for yourself, as opposed to just carve. What's for yourself? Says the Gemara, the carvings will be for you. God was telling Moshe Rabbeinu, after you carve out the luchot, after you make them nice shape, keep the leftovers, whatever fell out, keep it for yourself. Now, what were the tablets made out of? We know that the tablets were made out of sanpirion, sapphire. So if that's the case, all the sapphire that Moshe left, he got to keep. That's a lot of money. Moshe got wealthy from the leftover of the luchot. Now, if it was me giving the luchot, and God says you could keep whatever you cut out, I would probably shave them down to something the size of a Post-it. I would come up to God, okay, here God, here's the tablet, right over here the 10, and I would keep all the stone. But I'm not Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu for sure did not cut. He was very generous, I'm sure, with the size of the tablet that he kept. But either way, Mevuar Mekan, it's clear from here that Moshe Rabbeinu's wealth came from one moment, and one moment only. And that is when he carved out the tablets. Now let's do the math. When did he carve out those tablets? Like we said, it was Rosh Chodesh Elul. He came down 40 days later on Yom Kippur with the second pair of tablets, and where God says, Salachti kidvarecha, I've forgiven you and the people, and let's move on. Let's start the building of the Mishkan. Moshe comes down the next day from Yom Kippur, Vayakel. He gathers everyone, and he tells them, guys, we're going to do this amazing project Mishkan. We need everyone's gold and silver and stuff. Then they start bringing all the gold and silver and stuff, and all of a sudden they see Moshe rich, because that's the first time that they saw him from when he was, after they last saw him 40 days before. So he was poor then, and all of a sudden he's rich. Says the Be'er Yosef, that was the opening for the Letzanim. They saw this and they said, the guy got rich from our donations. What else could it be? And we learn, my friends, amazing lessons over here. Number one, Number one is don't jump to conclusions. It looks like it's very clear. You played it all out in your head. You know exactly what the answer is, obviously. You know what the situation is. You know why your friend didn't invite you to their wedding, obviously, because you're Sadiq, you're Gaon, you're Navi, you're a prophet. You clearly have all the information. Hevu metunim badin. Be patient, be patient, be patient. Don't jump to conclusions. They thought they figured it out. Moshe was poor before. We give donations, and he's rich. What else could it have been? Obviously, it's the donations. There was nothing else happened in between. Right, because you know everything going on in the guy's life. You know what's going on behind closed doors. You know that there's nothing else that could be the answer. How do you know? How do we know? Moshe Rabbeinu, it's a foregone conclusion that he became wealthy from the donations that he stole. Look, you didn't realize there was also stuff going on. God said there's tablets, there's sapphire, you could keep the shavings. You weren't privy to that information. You look from behind, you see the whole story. In life, we got to realize we only know a tiny part of the story. You don't know what's going on. We get upset at someone. They didn't call us. They forgot about us. They ignored us. We get jealous of someone. A million things go on. And what do we say? What kind of person is this? How do they not, think of me? Do you know what's going on in their private life? Do you know why they didn't come to your wedding? You're just jumping. I knew she was never my friend. How do you know? Maybe something happened. Maybe someone got sick. My friends, in life, we got to look for excuses for the people around us, not against them. The same way when you have a contradiction in the Rambam, he writes here that, and he writes over there the opposite, and the rabbis spend decades ripping their heads apart trying to figure it out. In life, we got to rip our heads trying to figure out excuses in the contradictions that we see in the people around us. That's what it means. Hevu metunim badin. It's a mitzvah. To dan lekav zechut. We got to judge favorably. We come home, we see something in the house, we jump to a conclusion. In 3 seconds, we know exactly what happened all day long. That we could start doing and assuming and yelling. 2 kids are fighting. All of a sudden, we know which one's right, which one's wrong. We figured it all out in 5.3 seconds. That's not the way of a wise person. That's litzanim. Clowns do that. Clowns assume. In life, we don't assume, my friends. Can't assume. Don't play out scenarios in your head. They don't like me. They're trying to this, they're that. Don't assume. Be patient. Ask. Someone didn't include you in the decision. You're offended. Okay? But instead of lashing out and creating a whole fight and now ruining the friendship and now ruining the relationship, why don't you find out? Why don't you say, by the way, I feel like I would love to be included in these conversations. Is there a reason? Ask. Ask the question. Find out. Why? You will be surprised. A lot of times, we're hurt from people. They never intended to hurt us. Sometimes we think things too deep. We think too deep into things. We're assuming. And a lot of times it was just an honest mistake. They didn't mean that. They didn't intend that. They didn't think it was. They didn't even think of it. In our heads, who's the most important person in your life? Right? Who's the most important person in your life? It's you. You're the most important person in your life. So, the other guy that messed up, you're not the most important person in his life. He is. So he forgot about you. It wasn't malice. wasn't bad. He didn't intend something hurtful. He just didn't think of it. We have to learn to try to find excuses. Hevu metunim badin, my friends. Lesson number 2. How low do you have to be to steal money from the Mishkan? Who in the world would do that right now? Would you go and take money from the shul's tzedakah box? Imagine taking not from the shul's tzedakah box. Imagine taking from Hashem's tzedakah box in the Beit HaMikdash. Not just the shul, the shul. Imagine. How low could you go? Who in the world would do that? You know, it's an interesting halacha about a thief. If a guy steals, the halacha is that the amount that he has to pay back is not the same if you're a thief, if you're a ganav, or if you're a gazlan. A ganav is someone who steals at night. A gazlan is someone who steals in the middle of the day. Who's worse? Night or day? Think about it. Who's worse? The guy who steals in the night? The guy who steals in broad daylight? I know what you're going to say, because it's probably what I was going to say. Most people would think, you got your answer, you wrote it down? Okay, you ready? Worse is to steal at night. Why? Very good. Why? You would think, no, at least the guy in the night, the guy in the day, how chutzpah, right? It's audacious. In the day, broad daylight. That's what you would think. However, ganav is worse than gazlan. Why? Because the guy who goes in the day, there's at least, he is afraid of people. He's not afraid of people. The guy who goes in the day, not afraid of people watching him. Goes in the day, he doesn't care. The guy who goes at night, he's afraid of people. But who is he not afraid of? Not afraid of God. God's watching you at night, but you still could care less. Only thing you care about is people. You made God worse than people. You fear God less than you fear people. You're going at night. At least the guy in the day, he fears God and people equally. Interesting. To say that God, right, just the same way a ganav, a thief at night, he's like as if God's not watching me. So imagine stealing from the temple. It's as if you're saying God's not watching me. It's in his house. That's a very low accusation. And who are you accusing? You're accusing Moshe, someone that God put in this job. He commissioned him. God hired Moshe. You heard God speak to Moshe? But this is the power of cynics. This is the power of evil. You could take something that's so clear and obvious and you could turn it into an accusation. We're seeing this today, unfortunately. We're seeing it play out. People that are taking something that's very simple and obvious, a conflict in the Middle East. Conflict in the Middle East. This is the power of litzanu. You could take something very clear, very obvious, rape and murder and killing babies and all these things, very obvious, and then to be able to say, it's complicated. Let me tell you, these people that say it's complicated, they're fools. Nothing complicated. They're just fools. And this is the power of litzanu. Litzanu could turn even a Moshe Rabbeinu into a crook. And that's lesson number 2. in life, there's going to be haters. And you have to be able to live with that. They always existed. Which leads into lesson number 3. And that is Moshe's response. Moshe, imagine you're Moshe. How would you respond? These people are accusing you of here. How would you respond? Moshe Rabbeinu's response is unbelievable. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't turn it on them. He doesn't name call. He doesn't anything. He says, no problem. I'm not insulted. How dare you? You want to know? Here we go. Here. Here's the receipts. Here, take everything. I got nothing to hide. I don't have to answer to you. Hashem knows the truth. Who do you think you are? None of that. Moshe Rabbeinu, nothing to hide. In life, we have to know that we're not above criticism. We're not above accusation. People are going to accuse you and suspect you. It's okay. You have to answer to them, yes. A lot of times we don't think like that. A lot of times we think, Hashem knows the truth. I just have to answer to God. And matter of fact, there's actually a pasuk. That's not true. Pasuk in the Torah. Pasuk says, V'item nekiyim me Hashem ume Yisrael. You got to be clean in the eyes of Hashem, and you got to be clean in the eyes of Israel. Every single person has to do whatever they can to make sure that not only God knows they're not lying, but even to go as far as to make sure that people think you're not lying. And that's actually a harder thing, because God knows. But people, forget about it, where their imagination could go, what they could suspect you of, and it's your job to make sure that people are not suspicious of you. Matter of fact, the Midrash on this parasha, on this pasuk over here, learns interesting halacha. That it says over here, if anyone would go in to donate into the treasure house, lo haya nechnas lo bepargod chafut, he could not enter with a hemmed garment, velo be'anpelia, not with a sock. Why? If you entered with a hem or a sock, something that has a pocket, if you get rich, people are going to suspect you that you took from the teruma lishka. They're going to suspect you that you stole from the treasure, from the chamber. So therefore, you're not allowed to enter with any pockets, any socks, nothing that you could hide. You have to have full transparency. When you're going in, fully transparent. What do you mean? Why? God sees. It's true, God knows, but people may not. And you got to do whatever you have to, whatever you can, to make sure that people don't suspect you. That's on you. There's many halachot about this. You're eating meat, and you want to drink some almond milk. Are you allowed to drink almond milk? Parv. But the truth is, someone watching may suspect you. This is called marit ayin. On Shabbat, you have a cooked food, and you want to put it in the oven to heat up. Heating is heating. Heating is allowed on Shabbat. But perception, it looks like it's bad. You as a Jew, you have to take care of that. That's on you. Now, that's not our instinct. Our instinct is to say, well, what do you want from me? It's their problem. Let them suspect me. What do I care about what people say? I know, Hashem knows. No. V'item nekiyim me Hashem ume Yisrael, my friends. We gotta be transparent. We gotta be honest. We gotta show. Moshe Rabbeinu heard accusation. He didn't say, oh, I don't owe you an answer. It's between me and God. Nope. Nope, it's not true. People donated. They deserve to know. They want to know. You got to do what you can to just put to bed their suspicion. That's something very powerful. to be able to say, I have nothing to hide. And I have nothing to hide, and I have nothing to be nervous about either. And that's the truth. That is, I think, a very important lesson that we learn from our parasha, from Moshe Rabbeinu. As great as he was, he never allowed his position, his authority, to put him above temptation, above accusation. If you want to know, it's okay. I'm not afraid. And the truth is, in life, when you're right, you have nothing to hide. You're right about being a Jew. You know what it means to be a Jew. You know what it means to be a supporter of Israel. If you know what that means, to be religious, you're not afraid of questions. You know who's afraid of questions? People that they don't really know. People that maybe are not sure if what they have is emet. But when you know the truth, you're not afraid of questions. In Judaism, we encourage questions. We're not afraid. In a school, you can never have a house where the kids, or a school where the students feel like they can't ask, like they're put down if they ask. A teacher should never be afraid. A parent should never be afraid. We should always encourage. And if I don't know, it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes the answer could be, I don't know. That's also a good answer. It's a good question. I don't know. We have to look into it. It's a good question. We can't be afraid. Fear means that what we have, we don't really know if it's emet. Truth, there's nothing to worry about. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I know the truth. It's okay. You could suspect me. No problem. I'm not upset. I'm not turning it back on you. Oh yeah, you're suspecting me. Let me see your phone, huh? Let me see your messages. Who are you calling? Huh? Who's AutoZone? Huh? What's that? Let me see that. Right? Either way, Hashem should bless us to not jump to conclusions on one hand, and on the other hand, if people jump to conclusions on us, to be able to have always the side of the emet, the truth, to always be clean, to do whatever we can to stay clean in the eyes of God and in the eyes of man. Stop over here. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.